Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the East Cocalico Board of Supervisors meeting to order for Thursday, February 3rd. Please stand to salute the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would ask that everyone please double check all electronic devices, phones and things. Just make sure they're either off or they're on vibrate. This meeting was duly advertised in the Lancaster newspaper on December 1st of 2021. We had no executive sessions since our last meeting. And past meeting minutes for approval. Any questions, change, anything else? Okay. What's the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the Thursday, January 20th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
And I will second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. Okay. Land planning engineering.
Yeah, we have two items tonight, two pretty straightforward procedural type items, so we won't have Brent or Casey here. We can handle these administratively with me being legal charge. So the first one is the Mount Zion Baptist Church. They're looking for a time extension for their final land development plan. That's property is located at 3 Denver Road, 22.3 acres in the general commercial zone. Project initially proposing a 6,300 square foot building addition to the existing sanctuary, which include a gym, an 18,600 foot proposed worship center, and drive aisles and additional parking spaces. We did issue an extension, if you recall, in October of 2021. And the reason at the time was as they were moving forward, COVID had made some significant impacts on their ability to do fundraising. They mentioned their congregation is slowly returning and they're starting to pick back up with the fundraising efforts. And once that those funds are raised, they intend to complete the land development plan for the gymnasium and then maybe phase the worship center construction expansion in accordingly. So they are requesting an additional 120-day time extension until June 8th, 2022. So there is a motion to accept the written time extension offer as submitted by the applicant's consultant dated January 27th, 2022, which will extend the deadline for action on the Mount Zion Baptist Church final land development plan until June 8th, 2022.
Okay. And you didn't expect anyone here to
know
that? Okay, I will make a motion to accept the written time extension as submitted by the applicant's consultant dated January 27, 2022, which will extend the deadline for action for Mount Zion Baptist Church on the final land development plan until June 8, 2027. June 8, 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries.
All right, the next one, and I do not expect anyone here for this one as well, is the Yount Stormwater Management Plan, also referred to as 395 Mons Hill Road plan. This is the construction of a single family dwelling in a barn on 24.825 acre woodland. Property is located at 395 Mons Hill Road. It's located in a conservation zoning district. There's also an improvement of a logging lane, and the site will have, the property will have on-site water and sewer. There was a request to extend to consider extending the time for this project to May 19th, 2022. The stormwater project is not a land development plan, just stormwater. So there's a motion for the board to consider to accept the written time extension offer as submitted by the applicant's consultant dated January 25th, 2022, which will extend the deadline for action on the 395 Mones Hill Road Stormwater Management Plan until May 19th, 2022.
Okay, there's no one here representing that plan. Okay, what's the wish of the board on that one?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and I will second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay, transportation engineer.
Good evening. Good evening, all.
John?
Good evening.
Is there anything you want me to start with?
Not yet, but did Michael pass out a copy of our draft study? And again, it's in draft format.
I have it on the computer, somebody wants a copy of it.
Again, if you recall back in September, the board, you authorized to proceed with the analysis and evaluation of the intersection of North Reading Road and Church Street. We looked at this intersection back in 2017. At that time, we looked at what improvements could be done, minimal improvements, I guess, without a major overhaul. Part of that revision of the signal plan was to add the emergency vehicle preemption to the intersection. As we got into the analysis, it determined that basically the intersection needed a total overhaul. In order to do the lanes, everything, the pedestrian signals, it just needed a total redo. So at that time, it was submitted as a Green Light Go grant application. Funding was not approved for it. The work was done to put the emergency vehicle preemption up at the intersection. It involved a little more work with the controller change. The controller was pretty old out there and it couldn't handle the preemption. So at that time, the signal permit was revised, the preemption went up. That's for the police and the fire to trigger the lights basically when they go through the intersection. So the intersection sat, again, as trying to do something that is an intersection that is listed in the capital improvement plan of the transportation impact fee. The capital improvement plan, the CIP, calls out for left turn lanes on both East and West Church Street as a capital improvement project that could be funded by impact fees. So we went back, basically it was probably 3-4 years since we did traffic counts at the intersection. I believe at the time Denver Road Bridge was under construction. So we embarked on doing the traffic counts. In October, beginning of October, we did traffic counts at the intersection, 30 movement counts. We looked at the morning peak between 6 and 9, and then we looked at the afternoon between 3 and 6. Determined that the morning peak hour, the highest hour of that interval was 7:30 to 8:30, and in the afternoon it was 4:30 to 5:30. In order to evaluate the intersection, typically for a PennDOT type project, we advanced traffic throughout it basically 20 years. So we grew the traffic volumes up to 2041 conditions. PennDOT has growth rates that they develop every year for every county, for urban or rural type areas. That growth rate, those come out in August. For Lancaster County urban type roadways, they're seeing growth occurring at 0.67% per year. So we grew the traffic 20 years, so it's roughly about 15% is a projection of traffic volumes over the next 20 years along the roadway. After we do the traffic counts, we conducted what's called capacity analysis. We look at what the capacity of the intersection is under existing conditions, and then we look at future conditions 2041 to determine what those levels of service are. In the report, I don't know if you have the report, Mike, to pull up. I mean, you could probably put these tables up there. Go to table 2. Next one. Table 2 basically provides a summary of the levels of service. Again, we look at capacity. Capacity is great, rated based on a letter grade. Typical when you were in school, A being good, F being failure. And then The levels of service are based on how much delay there is in a particular movement or at the intersection or the lane group. So what you see in table 2, basically, the middle 2 columns, it says existing 2021 conditions. That gives you what the levels of service are for each lane group. For instance, the northbound left turn has its own left turn lane, so that level of service in the morning is C with a 21.29, again, it goes up to decimal places, but roughly 20-some seconds of delay, average delay over that hour to make that turn. Likewise, each other movement, the northbound, because the through and the right are combined, shows the level of service. Again, southbound left turn, southbound through right. Eastbound is, again, it's a through left type maneuver, and then there's a separate eastbound right turn lane. And likewise, the westbound is a single lane, so it's the westbound approach. So as you can see, under existing conditions, and then the ILS is the intersection level service. That's the overall intersection level service. So if you average all the movements over that hour, it works out to level service B with an average delay of 15.59 seconds. Likewise, when you look at the PM, you can see the levels of service. Northbound left turn drops to a level service D. The westbound approach, again being the single lane approach, is a level service E. Now, when we model the intersection, we model it such that the lanes are constrained. So people pass on the shoulders out there, they use the shoulders for right turn lanes, they may pass them on the left or whatever. But we model if it's that westbound approach is one lane, people have to wait in that lane to make their turn. So you don't take advantage of people who use the shoulders out there. If you look at 2041, if you grow the traffic volumes, like I said, to roughly 15% of 2041 conditions, basically under the exact same operation, the signals out there now, and the same lane usages, you can see the result levels of service. As you can see, the large drop again is the westbound approach, again, because it's a single lane, and you can see it drops from an E to an F at over 960 seconds of delay for that particular movement. The overall intersection is almost 200 seconds of delay, so when you average all those together, it ends up being around a 200-second delay to the intersection. After the existing analyses are done, and the no-bill, as I call them, we start looking at what improvements we need to increase those levels of service. A couple things we look at. We look at capacity of what turn lanes are needed. We look at signal timings and signal phasings to determine what's the optimal signal cycle length out there that can occur, or advanced left turn arrows required for any warranted. And then we also look at Q analysis to determine how long those lanes need to be. PennDOT has certain criteria for all these analyses that we do to meet, if it warrants a turn lane or not. So again, the report kind of goes through there, and I guess then probably the best thing, Mike, is to bring up, before you bring it up, we looked at 2 scenarios. We looked at one scenario as a signalized intersection, basically as it is, what it would take for lanes, again, signal timing, signal phasing, the length of turn lanes for that particular scenario. The second scenario is looking at a roundabout. When you do a project like this, PennDOT has what's called an ICE form. It's an intersection control evaluation. And anytime you do a project, PennDOT requires you to do this intersection control evaluation to look at different alternatives. So you just can't rule one or the other, or even if you have an intersection where there's no signal and it requires a signal, PennDOT makes you go through this intersection control evaluation. And you have to look at roundabouts. You have to look at other means to improve level of service. So rather than just come out and say, we're going to put a signal there, they require you to go through a step-by-step process to evaluate what type of control is required at the intersection. So the 2 alternatives we looked at, again, it's already signalized, so that was one alternative. No signalization is not an option, so roundabout was our 2 options we looked at. I guess we're going to put up the 4-way. The plan you can see that plan, basically illustrates the results of the analysis of turn lanes that are needed, the length of those turn lanes, and the general layout of what a 4-way intersection will look like. Now, the light gray, what you see is the existing cartway that's out there right now. The black is actually the wide areas. And again, as part of this exercise, which was again similar to what we did back in 2017, was to look to minimize any of the impacts, again, to Rivera Pizza, to the 7-Eleven Sunoco station, and try to push the intersection to the south. trying to maintain or minimize any type of impacts there or right-of-way takes on those two property corners. As you can see again, and I'll call this analysis a 2,000-foot level. I think that's what we talked about originally, was, you know, running through the numbers, determine what we need, and kind of do a 2,000-foot level here to come up with an idea of which alternative would be the best alternative. Again, the intersection was surveyed, so this is I'll say a higher level type concept plan. It's pretty much laid out. Again, minimizing impacts on those two properties. We're looking at extending sidewalk both east and west on Church to interconnect those neighborhoods. The intersection, again, it would be a complete brand new traffic signal, masked arms. We're looking at advanced left turns north and south on Reading Road. And again, north and south for purposes of drawing is the flat horizontal line or on the image here. Church runs north to south or top to bottom. Again, as you can see, each approach basically has its own turn lane. There's a left, a through, and a right turn lane on all 4 approaches. I'll call this the Cadillac version. This is the top to mitigate all the impacts. When we look at PennDOT's criteria for warrants for turn lanes, when we look at signal timing, signal phasing, etc., this is the plan, it's the top plan that meets all the criteria. You can always start scaling back from this plan. You know, when you have right-of-way limitations or certain movements, now again, you're not going to get, you know, the ultimate design. You know, we're looking at 20 years. So again, there's certain movements here you could probably look at eliminating maybe a right turn lane here or there, you know, and it would add additional traffic onto the through lane. Our chart, again, as we go through this chart, table 5 in the analysis, table 3 and table 4, they show what the result levels of service are with these improvements. Table 4 is an interesting table to look at because it discusses the queues and looks at the queues under each scenario here. So,
You want me to pull that up?
yeah, why don't you pull that one up there? We can. I don't mean to jump around here, but it's just kind of everything kind of runs together here. I think that's critical when we go and we discuss the roundabout and the other. There we go.
The last one?
Yes.
You have to see every slide. On the table.
There we go. And what that shows the computed 95th percentile queue. So that's, again, typically your worst case peak condition type of queues. You can see, and the chart doesn't have it, but I think when I go to final the chart, I'll put in the existing queues just as a comparison so you know what the existing queues are. But you can look in the afternoon. The morning isn't really much of an issue out there from an operational or queue standpoint. If you look at the afternoon peak to southbound traffic, even with the improvements, you know, that southbound through traffic is still almost 400 feet long. So again, you know, when you run this signal intersection out there, you know, you only have so much time. I think we're running the optimal cycle length out there was 110 seconds. So, you know, when you have advanced arrows, you have to give time to those movements. You have to give time to the yellows, to the reds, then to go to the next phase. So again, when you start looking at all that, when you have such a high volume like that on a single lane approach, it's going to create a longer queue. Likewise, the westbound through, even with creating a left turn, maintaining a through, and adding a right turn lane, you still have a 219-foot queue. So you're 9 cars basically queued. You figure each car length is 25 feet. You're about 9 cars deep on the westbound approach. So again, you're not mitigating as much of the queue as you would like. However, again, the object is typically moving traffic north-south on 272. So that's everything PennDOT looks at too. They want to move traffic on 272, and that's the bulk of the traffic. So we can't, you know, you rob Peter to pay Paul basically. So if you want to reduce one queue, it suffers on the other queue. Likewise, level of service, it's going to increase the delay the same way. The second option we looked at was the roundabout. And Mike, if you can jump back to that one. Yeah. This is a little higher level. This is not as exact of a design as our line work on the intersection. Again, there's a lot more that goes into some engineering of this here, but basically the roundabout, when we looked at it, is a single lane roundabout. The outer diameter is 80 feet. The inside inscribed circle is 50 feet. So it gives you an idea footprint wise of what the size of this is. You know, when you look at the volumes out here, it's a standard 1 lane roundabout. But it does have what's called bypass lanes, and there's a northbound right turn bypass lane. So what that does is that takes the traffic coming north of Reading Road, and rather than introducing that traffic into the roundabout, it bypasses onto the right to go towards Ringstown. Likewise, coming southbound, same way. It's instead of introducing that traffic into the roundabout, just to go to the next leg, there's a separate bypass that runs through there. This plan probably, or it would be refined more to actually shrink up those bypass lanes. We've done 2 recent roundabouts for PennDOT projects. One is up in North Cornwall on 241. It just opened up this past summer on Colbrook Road, and one out in Perry County on Route 34. And we work with Kittleson and Sons, or Kittleson Associates, and these guys are national gurus on roundabouts. So we work with them pretty much hand in hand. I've worked on 2 other projects where we had roundabouts. These guys they wrote the books on roundabouts. PennDOT uses them as their consultant to review these things, to approve them. So they've teamed with us on some other projects. They worked with us on these past 2 roundabouts we just did. We kind of took the first level cut, and again, I'm looking at this more from a capacity standpoint to determine what works analytically. The actual design of this, can be tweaked depending where we go with this thing. They believe that we potentially could lose the bypass on the Sunoco side, and they also feel that we can shift the roundabout a little further to the south to create more of an offset, more of a calming effect for there. And again, these guys, they take it to the next degree of design if we decide to go that way. But again, from a capacity point of view, that's kind of what we were looking at. Does this work? Is this an effective and efficient improvement to the intersection? And it does. I mean, if you go back to the levels of service on the table, I mean, they are much better on the approaches. The delays are much lower. And again, that's because traffic doesn't stop. It continuously moves through the roundabout. It slows, it acts as traffic calming. These are designed such that they can facilitate a WB67, a full-size interstate truck with a 53-foot trailer. They're not designed for them to fly through. They're designed to go through. There's aprons on them that the wheels actually, as they go through the roundabout, their rear wheels go up on the apron. So again, it's designed to facilitate large interstate type trucks. And again, that's something PennDOT would require anyways, because it is a 3-digit SR. And again, just the nature of traffic that you have in the area that goes through here, it has to meet that design criteria. If you look at queues, again, it's the same thing with the queues. It reduces the queues. Again, helps level of service. So next thing after looking at, and again, this is just kind of conceptual. If you can back that plan, Mike. I'm sorry about that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
On the roundabouts, have you guys done post-construction analysis in terms of the flows on the roundabouts, and are they meeting the engineering formulas you guys came up with?
I think the post analysis that we do is really not capacity, because it's designed, it's built, it's interoperating. What we go out and evaluate, we evaluate speeds going through there. And then we look at the queues, because that's really the critical element, because we can analyze these queues based on standard models. But when we go out, we determine what the speeds are going through there, because they come up with design speeds, and they want you going through here like 12 to 15 mile an hour through here, depending on these deflections. So we like to see what the speeds are going through there. We know theoretically how much traffic we can get through these, but it's really that function of speeds going through there. And post follow-up on crash analysis, it's always something where it's due.
Right, so the data you're gathering, if I can summarize it, then is on 2 primary factors. It's speed and flow.
Correct.
Okay. I'll tell you why I'm asking the question. 222, all the way up down. Those roundabouts were supposed to be the saving grace of the East Coast. They cannot get a 53-footer, the one up by, I think it's the Chutes.
Main Creek.
Maple Creek. No,
No, that's.
no, it's, up by sheet, so you're past,
Yeah, I know which one you are.
yeah, you're past, the Kutztown bypass.
662.
60, right. You cannot, God help an individual who gets stuck next to a 53-footer on those two lanes going around that circle. Every single 53-footer takes both lanes. They don't have the radius on that.
See, that part of the issue is that's a 2-lane roundabout.
Yes. that's
So
the two-lane.
unfortunately, a driver's gonna take advantage of as much pavement as possible to minimize using the apron to stay in the lane. They're designed such that the radius is there for them to stay in their lane. But
I understand.
the driver, it's a driver, you know, that's what it really comes down to. That's why PennDOT is not really excited about multi-lane roundabouts. You know, when the one up in Hershey went in, that was one of the first ones in there they were looking, and they were promoting a 2-lane, and PennDOT said, no, let's keep it single lane, and we'll design it and set curbs back, that if we need to widen and create 2 lanes, the infrastructure's there. We did the same thing on 34. 34 is actually designed that if they were going to go to the future, light posts, everything was set back, the curb is set back, they would just have to basically remove a piece of curb and push it back. Everything's designed, stormwater, everything's there to do it. Again, single lane is the most efficient because it keeps everybody single file. The more pavement you provide, the less deflection you require, it increases speeds, and you know, they call it the quick path. And that's what you evaluate, what's the quick path through there, and that's exactly what they're doing, they're taking the quick path through there.
Right, and that's why I'm asking, what's the post-construction metric you guys are measuring? Because when you go, the single lane ones, when you go up to 22, they work great. But when you get to that one where you put in the two
Sure.
lanes.
I think with the 2 lanes, you got point now, you got merging back in, and you know, again, people being familiar with the area. On a road like that, you have a lot of people that aren't familiar. You got the daily commuters that take it every day. We do have a lot of people just coming through there, and people, again, not familiar with roundabouts, and you know, you come up, there's a lot of information you gotta absorb and read on the sign so you know you're in the right lane, or it's, you know, hey kids, big bang, you just kind of keep going around thing. But, you know, that's why PennDOT's hesitant on multi-lanes. Now, that road definitely warrants a multi-lane. So, you know, there's no way a single lane would work on something like that. You know, for the types of volumes we're dealing with here, I'll call our V over C ratios, which is our volume to capacity ratios. You know, we're down below 0.8, which again is great. You know, you can get up to about 0.94, 0.95 is what they're saying is where you need to jump to a multi-lane. So we're well below the threshold for needing a 2-lane. The problem that comes up is with these bypass lanes. You could actually remove the bypass lanes, it would shrink your footprint up. You know, it's just gonna lose some of the efficiency of it. You know, the other thing too is what we'll look at, you know, if we proceed further with any of these designs, you know, there's a certain element of stormwater that needs to occur, you know, for something like this. You know, by shrinking this up and remove some pavement, we can reduce some of that stormwater area that's needed, lessen the impact on those 2 quadrants. So again, I think the first time is go through and say, okay, hey, this is the Cadillac version. This is, you know, this is your most efficient operation to use these bypass lanes. If you know, if we want to right size it, again, as PennDOT, when they look at projects, you know, they require us to do these alternatives analysis, and you know, that would be a next step to do an alternatives analysis. Say, okay, if we eliminate the bypass lanes, what does that do for efficiency? What do we lose on efficiency? And how does that lessen our impact on right-of-way takes, on stormwater facilities, just general construction costs, et cetera?
Yeah, because it cascades from there.
Yeah. So basically that's what these 2 plans are. The roundabout shows, you know, this is, I'll call it a Cadillac version. I think if it could be pushed a little further to the south and tweaked a little bit, create a little bit more of a version going east and west. But then the next item was the cost estimate. I think you guys, or all you guys have the general estimates there.
Do you want to start with the
We'll go back to the idea of the 4-way intersection. And what we did is we put together a cost opinion. Again, this is based on current construction cost. Basically, this is a summary. This is not, you know, there's much more detail, but again, just come with some bulk quantity items of what it would take to do something here. Again, the first one is the turn lane concept. You know, it's roughly a $2 million project, is what you're looking at. We start adding contingencies, utilities, right-of-way design, permitting. You know, basically it takes you almost to a $2.6 million project. You go to the roundabout concept. again, the cost is pretty comparable to what you're doing. I mean, you got, footprint with the four-way, you're extending north and south, east and west. Everything's pretty much compact with the roundabout. Again, you're at just about 2.1 million. And again, I think that can probably come down a little bit based on maybe losing these bypass lanes or making them a little shorter. When you add everything else, you're like a $2.8 million project. So both projects are basically in the same range of cost-wise. Just, if you came to me and you said, what would you recommend or what would you say is the best alternative? My opinion, I think it's the roundabout. I think number one, when you look at long-term maintenance, you don't have the signal there. The signal has operating costs, electrical costs, insurance costs, maintenance costs if somebody hits a pole. The roundabout road doesn't have much in the way of maintenance. It's mainly pavement that's out there. It acts as a traffic calming device. It slows people. And it serves everybody equally versus the signal. And again, it's from a pedestrian point of view. If you start looking at the intersection itself, if you look at the length of those crosswalks, if you got to cross 4 lanes basically to get across any approach, so it's a long pedestrian route. If we're looking to improve pedestrian activity through here, you got to cross 4 lanes to get across. When you start looking at this plan, also it impacts some of the driveways of the properties on the corner. The gas station was priced significantly. If you look at it from a safety point of view, if you look on Church Street, the driveway coming out of the gas station, if you want to make a left turn, you got to go across. If you want to go south on 272, you got to go all the way across 3 lanes to get there. So again, it's when PennDOT starts with this, they're going to start saying, you're going to have to start restricting driveways and make it enter only, right in, right out, restrict movements from some of these. So it's going to happen that way. But the roundabout scenario, everything's a little tighter. You got some of those splitter islands there. You can still go across in 2 lanes. Go between Pizza and that's what I'm saying with that splitter island. I believe that island on that splitter can probably be reduced, but allow the northernmost driveway to the gas station still to be 2-way. You can still come out the other side on the Church. Same with the Pizza. You're coming out there. You have full access at that location. So I think from an access point of view, number one, it makes it shorter distances to turn out. Traffic's moving slower. From a pedestrian point of view, as pedestrian crosses a roundabout, they're basically looking in one direction for traffic coming. They get to the median, to the island, it's a refuge point, then they cross the next lane. So it's not like crossing, you got 4 lanes out there, you're talking 50 foot of pavement, and shoulders to get across. And again, that takes time too. So when somebody hits the push button out there, the walk signal comes up. It's going to give a lot more time to the walk to get you across than it will for the car. So again, if you have increased pedestrian traffic down there, it's going to take away some of the efficiency of the signal. Here, it's pretty much you're crossing 1 lane at a time to get across on the intersection. And again, the design of these, like I said, we look at the full-size WB67s that go through here. We were working on one in Manheim Township for the Oregon Village project, if you heard about that. We were proposing a roundabout in that project, and we had a lot of contact with the Amish and Mennonite, because again, there was a lot of them with farm equipment that were trying to get from one side of Oregon Pike to the other, back off of Creek Road, and we asked them, and they loved them because they said, number one, it slows people down. If it's single lane, they have their team of horses or whatever, bringing something, or a tractor pulling a piece of equipment, it fits, it's only 10 foot wide, the lanes on these are 12 plus feet wide. Something wider, it doesn't, you got the center island, there's really enough for it to hit. It gives them an opportunity to basically safely cross an intersection. Their kids on scooters, for crossing, they can come up on bicycles or whatever, they stop, it's much easier to cross. So we got a very, very, positive response from the Mennonite and Amish in the area, farm equipment and just bringing stuff across back and forth on the road. So, that's always a question that comes up. How does horse and buggy traffic deal with this? It seems that they're very positive about it. Anything that can slow traffic down, tractor trailer will always beat horse and buggy. So anything that can slow people down that they can enter the traffic stream is a plus for them. So that's what we did from October till now.
That's it?
That's all. We actually met with the TIF committee a couple weeks ago, was it?
Yep.
2 weeks ago. Basically made the same presentation to them, again, because this is an intersection that is impact fee eligible. I think there's 500,000 that's in the impact fee that could be applied towards this project. So there was no official vote or anything. I think everybody just kind of straw poll and just kind of raised hands. I think the general consensus was, might be correctly, was the roundabout
Correct, yeah.
was more of the preferred alternative. So yeah, we believe your meeting was 2 days after that, but I want to at least tidy some things up before I came here. So like I said, I got the report in draft form. Still like to go back and kind of add some things to it. I just want to get feedback from you all to see what I can put into at least, again, this front top level type study here to see where we're going to go with this.
Let me open it up to everybody.
When you talk about a bypass lane, I guess, is that, the definition of that, so what, a right turn lane coming off of 272?
Right, it's basically a right turn lane that separates the traffic. So if you're in that lane, you're only going right, you don't introduce into the circle. I mean, you can actually enter, go through the roundabout and still make a right turn, but again, the idea is to siphon off that traffic to go right in either of those directions.
Now that, I guess on the example here, it's only showing on that one right turn off of 272 onto Church Street, heading north. Is that correct, or is there more there that I'm missing?
There's actually the southbound right turn.
South, oh, okay, there's an island there too, right, okay.
And again, from a capacity point of view, if you eliminate those, you know, it'll lower the capacity a little bit. I mean, you're still level service Bs and Cs, which are pretty good, you know, for the volume of traffic you're moving out there. Again, I just want to take it that this was, you know, the top of the line. This is the best. If you really want to say, hey, what was the best we can do out here? We start with this, and again, if we have to right size it to go backwards because of right of ways, costs, or you know, whatever we had to do, then that's kind of where we start peeling back from. But I didn't want to give something where I said, well, if we had this, we can make it better. So from an analysis point of view, again, both of these plans show our best case.
So if you're heading through one of those turns with a 53-foot trailer, so is there enough room on the radius for them to get through without the trailer getting way out of line there?
And again, that's this I'll call this a concept. I mean, it was laid out with trucks, but the next cut would be a much higher detail, more like in line with what we did with the four-way intersection. We didn't want to really invest a lot of money into this. You know, this was not a preferred alternative. Just again, it was to determine, it's more to give you guys more of a picture of what it would look like versus just looking at a bunch of tables and numbers to say what it is. So again, just trying to get with that footprint of that 80-foot diameter, you know, what we're talking about there, and just kind of show what these will look like conceptually. I think those right turns would actually be a little bit tighter, and it'd be more of a peel off a lot closer. Those islands wouldn't be as large as that. But yes, they are designed such that they can handle a full interstate 53-foot trailer. And that's with the wheels back too, so that's not wheels up. Sometimes, you know, they can bring the wheels up to make it in more urban situations. So, you know, we have to run the most restrictive measure.
Yeah. I'd say try to stay as close as possible to the Cadillac plan instead of taking things away, just because, I mean, we're in a growing environment, and probably you save 300, 400,000 now. What if in 10 years down the road we're in this issue again? And obviously, you know, there's two local businesses there, so you don't want to.
Sure.
You really don't want to take away a lot from them and make it an inconvenience to both businesses.
And that was really, I think, one of our top items, you know, when we looked at this before, and again now, was really trying to minimize impacts. If you look at the roundabout, like on the pizza shop side there, you know, we end up putting, there's some grass area in there, it kind of, it pushes it a little further. And I think, again, talking with the guys at Kittleson, we could even push out a little further south and maybe kind of make a rain guard or something in there for stormwater on that side to reduce the footprint of stormwater on the south side. So, you know, there's, again, I keep saying it's conceptual. I mean, these guys get in there licking their chops, are like, we can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, let's just, you know, let's get conceptual where we are, and then we can work more on a hard line design.
On that plan, if you're pulling out, let's say, of the gas station, you want to head, if you want to make a left-hand turn, are you able to do that?
Yes, on the Church Street approach?
Like right up here. You're trying to pull out of here.
No. You could only turn right. That's what I'm saying. I think if we.
So I know like there's two driveways here, so that's gonna be interfering with that business as well, because now they're only able to turn right.
Right, the one driveway most likely would be either closed, one close to the intersection, and the other one would remain full access. Again, you'd have the ability to come through the roundabout to make the turn to go left in off of Church Street. If you want to go south, you would, exit out on the Church Street, you go out, you go through the roundabout, and you go that way. So again, from a safety point of view, rather than pulling out, making an angle turn on 272, you come out and go through the roundabout, go south. I mean, if you look at, I guess the Sheets example up there too, if you look at their driveways, end up 222, I mean, they're close, you got multi-lanes, so you can see the driveways can still be close, so they function. They have left turn movements, and I think the center turn lane turns into Sheets there, and if you want to go out, you come out the one side, you go around the roundabout to go, if you want to go west. So that's the beauty of the roundabout. It eliminates, and that's why from a safety perspective, it really eliminates those angle accidents. That was, I think, one thing I did jump over, and we did pull crash data. And again, the crash data we pulled was from PennDOT. We got 500 feet in all directions, and we just pulled reportables up. The reportable, as the chief knows, is something that there's an injury, if it has to be towed, or a fatality. And the past 5 years, there's been a total of 21 reportable crashes there, again with one fatality. I think when I looked at our last time when we did it, I think we went up to it actually went down 2 crashes, but again, that was 2 years prior. But again, you can see 15 of those crashes were angle crashes. So it's either people, turning left, and a lot of it was driver, turning left, not yielding, pulling out of driveways. I think there was only one running the red light there. But again, you can see a majority of those crashes are all angle crashes. And again, that's the beauty of the roundabout. It really reduces those crashes because everybody's moving in the same direction.
Any other questions for our transportation engineer? Yes, sir.
In the center of the roundabout.
I'm sorry, name. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Kerry Hall.
Thank you, sir.
In the center of the roundabout, you have, is that a concrete round? And how wide is that?
The outermost, the green part is actually, I just showed as green to be grass, but again, it's low. There's nothing that drives over that. The next gray band you see, the light gray,
Yes.
that is concrete. That's an apron. There's about a 2-inch curve that goes up there in that slope. That's what the rear wheels track over.
Okay, now the next thing is the green. How wide is the green?
The green is 50 feet.
Can that be shortened?
No, because really to get a 53-foot trailer and a truck through there, it's really the outside diameter. It could be smaller. It's just really, you don't want people to make it look like you can drive straight across. You kind of create this view that you want people to stay in the roadway. It's really for the rear wheels of trucks to track over that. Again, if you track a truck through there, those wheels don't really track out into the green. So again, just try.
We track quite a bit close to the center of that green to get around. One up there on 222. I was just asking if that could be smaller. Instead of 50 feet, why couldn't it be 30 feet?
Yeah, I mean, there's, it really doesn't play. It's really the outer, the 80 foot is what's the critical dimension. That inside can actually be smaller. Again, just trying to minimize the amount of impervious pavement out there, just to cut back on stormwater. It gives a nice feature to it. I mean, put grass out there, low plants,
Palm tree.
You want something that really blocks people's line of sight.
Put a rain garden in the middle,
Yeah,
some of your stormwater.
yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Brian Wise, who, when the dust settles, will be in charge of the maintenance of all the stormwater, the island, anything associated with that? Is that gonna be township or is that gonna be state?
That's a tough question. Because I've seen it go both ways. See, the stormwater itself would be the townships, because under any HOP or roadway type improvement, PennDOT sees any stormwater on a state road, the maintenance responsibility of the municipality. So they're curbing, stormwater, inlets, I think they maintain inlet tops, the piping, everything underground would be the municipality's responsibility. The roundabouts themselves, again, because you're dealing with state roads here, the option is always to have PennDOT maintain it. Yeah, that's always the option, to have PennDOT maintain it. You know, if you start getting creative in the center of the island with, you know, landscaping or something like that, they're gonna look to the municipality to take over the maintaining of that, if it's grass. You know, you may come up with an agreement of maintaining that, but any rain gardens, stormwater facilities, all that's gonna be the responsibility of the township. So even if you do the intersection improvements, you go back to the four-way, you know, there's a lot of curbing and drainage features going on there, so you're still gonna have to deal with stormwater out there, so you're probably gonna have facilities somewhere in the lower southeast, southwest quadrant, somewhere, you know, basin or some sort of thing going on there, because you are adding quite a bit of impervious out here, and I'm not sure what the existing storm system is out there where you can connect a lot to, so, you know, you're gonna have a lot more curbing out here for this. Again, PennDOT looks at curbing as a drainage feature, so they're gonna make the township be the permittee on that also. But again, PennDOT always tries to push off to the municipality. I think for something like this, and again, with the state project, like the ones up at, on 241 and on 34, the state's maintaining those. Again, it's bare bones, there's really nothing to them. The lighting becomes the responsibility of the municipality, so PennDOT doesn't pay for the lighting, so a lot of it does come back to the municipality, it's just a matter of what, you know, the general maintenance of any on the center island, try to kind of keep it as minimal as possible. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Doug Mackley, you mentioned it, John. The advantage I see of the roundabout is the maintenance. I mean, I know when they hit one of these mast arms out here that are special order, they're 12, 14, 16 weeks order.
Well, we just did a signal in East Pete, it was 26 weeks to get poles.
Right.
They just came in December, so it took 26 weeks to get a pole.
Right. So you got the ongoing maintenance and the light bill and everything else, and these roundabouts don't have stuff. So, you know, that's, there might be a little bit of difference in the initial cost, but when you start weighing all the other options, it just makes all the sense in the world for this.
Well, you look at, I mean, cost of the operation of the signal, it's on your insurance, the
Right.
township's insurance, I'm not sure what that is, but I mean, you got normal maintenance. Your maintenance contractor comes out twice a year, if something goes wrong, I mean, never fails, something goes wrong, the detector or bulb burns out, the LED burns out, or like you said, somebody hits a pole or something like that. And again, with the new intersection, if you look at the four-way, you're probably talking 45-foot mast arms.
Right.
So, you know, they're longer mast arms, they're not cheap. And if you look at the cost of the signal, what the initial cost of it is, it's, you know, over $300,000 just for the signal. So, you know, you don't have to worry about leak detectors, any type of protection, it's just, it works, it controls itself.
Thank you.
What about funding options? Does the roundabout,
I knew you were gonna agree with that.
does the roundabout offer any advantages, or is there any obstacles we face if we?
I heard Route 2 was gonna donate their services for this. Did I hear that right?
Sorry, that's probably was it the mobility, because you look at Green Light Go, Arley, I mean, those don't typically fund capacity-related improvements, so this would definitely be considered as capacity-related. The good thing is you have some TIF money, so when it comes to any type of matching funds, you can apply that. And again, and Mike, you're aware of this, the easiest, shortest duration to do a project is when you do the entire project yourself. Once you get state monies involved, you have a whole other arena of environmentals, right-of-ways, everything you need to go through. You add the federal money, if you get federal money, it adds a whole nother layer of stuff. So the project can, you know, basically, you know, when you say that the DDI costs $11 million to do it down there, and you think it's, you know, a pretty easy project, once you start putting state and federal monies in, you're just expanding the scope of study and the cost of it. Give you an example, West Earl's looking at a project on Main Street, and they were given money, or they want a grant basically to do curb and sidewalk up there and drainage work. Well, at the end of the day, the amount of work it took to get the environmental clearances, the right-of-way clearances, everything else, they said, we'll do it as an HOP, we can do it ourselves cheaper. So they said, you know, here's your money back, thank you, but no thank you, and moved on, they're doing it themselves. So at the end of the day, it comes down to cost and time. You know, with Montville Borough, they were the same way, they had a bad intersection there. You know, if it got on the tip or somehow they got money, there was a lot of right-of-ways, historic type things to deal with, it just really put more layers onto the project. they were lucky enough, we got green light go money, to basically fund the whole replacement of the signal canal. So again, that's that's just a reimbursement. It's a local town project, so you don't have to go through all the hoops that you do with PennDOT projects. So when there's grant monies out there, there's just more handcuffs, I'll say.
Okay, any other questions? Chairman, what do you think?
I guess, John, when a resident asks about what this design you're talking about would look like, the best reference point would be a single lane similar to up in Hershey.
Yes. Or if you're, I mean, a new one on Lids is another good example.
There's one right there in Lids.
Newport.
That's single lane.
There's one over on Woodcrest Street, come up 6. They did 2 of them this past year. That's a perfect example, right by Clay Road.
And that single lane works beautifully well.
And that, I mean, their cost, I think, on that was, I know it was about $1.7 million, but again, the development, retirement community kind of contributed on the other leg that came in. There was some retaining walls, so there was kind of a partnership they had there too.
And I'll add one thing you had mentioned that I noticed, Jeff. When I'm pulling the trailer and I'm going up to these roundabouts, it's actually better line of sight. Because you don't have the arms, you don't have all the signage out there. You can actually see pretty well what's coming the other way, how everything's approaching.
Yeah, it's all to your right, no matter where you're going, anybody coming at you.
And so East Enfield made the same decision over at Lime Springs on the back of Running Pump Road and it goes through there. But again, they were looking at the intersection with the signal, and again, it was so wide. I mean, because they needed turn lanes all directions over by Twizzlers, heavy truck traffic, because again, all that off Hempland Road there, it's all industrial back there, so it's just, getting out to Morristown Road. And the roundabout was, again, a smaller footprint, and just, once it got in there and people got familiar with it, it works nice once they realize that, you're only watching one direction for somebody come that way, and again, if people learn how to use their turn signals, sometimes it would help things. But again, people sit there and they'll wait. And again, that's some of the delay studies we look at. We look at the operation, we sit there and just, a lot of it's observations, people using turn signals come through there. Are they coming through there slow, are people responding, are they just pulling out, and what kind of gaps are they taking to pull out? So again, a lot of it's just kind of observation type things and just kind of, I don't know if you can plug it into a formula, but it's observations you make, like post-construction type of items. There's not a formula you can plug in and say, okay, you got X amount of cars and here's what it's doing, but more just operationally, how are people reacting, how are vehicles getting through there? Again, emergency services are always key in the design of things so they feel comfortable with it, but they tell us if you can get us, a WP67 through there, they can get their trucks through there, it's not a problem.
So I'll give you my personal opinion. My personal opinion is I personally prefer the circle. I think it's one roundabout. Circle. It's not elliptical.
It could actually turn out to be elliptical, to be honest with you, because that was one of the ideas of kind of pulling it east to west as that way to kind of shorten the impact north to south. So again, these guys are licking their chops to look at this thing to see how they can refine this. So
I mean, I think it's worth doing a little more research to pin down the roundabout, in my opinion.
I prefer the roundabout as well. I mean, I think it's probably gonna work better. My only concern is the maintenance, like all the concrete. I drive 272 every day to go to work, and like on the boulevard right there where the light's at, pedestrians sit, that's been busted up for months and it's still not fixed. What if this gets all busted up and then it looks like trash too? Who's gonna fix it? So we gotta have all our ducks in a row before we make the right decision. But I'm leaning more towards this as well.
Yeah, I think from a flow standpoint, it makes sense. Nobody likes sitting at a light for a cycle or two. And it is an education process for people
figure out how to get through. I guess that's some of the initial comments you always hear about that.
Yeah, but you see there's more of them coming in Lancaster County. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the first one was over by the airport. That was like, I think one of the first ones around here, and you start seeing them, more and more coming around, and people are getting out, they see these things, and we don't have as many here as in the western part of the state. I mean, they have them off of I-70 newsstand, getting off of I-70, they have, instead of having the ramps, like you have the ramps, they have those as roundabouts that go through. They got 3 of them in a row, basically, so it's, out west, they're doing a few more of these guys. Again, you're right off I-70, you stand in a major truck interchange between 70 and 76, and, it's heavy truck traffic, so again, the design of the concrete is, for long term to handle those types of loads, so again, that's, you look at the truck traffic you have here, so the design of the concrete here is, compatible to work with the type of loading you have here.
Funding.
So what do we need as next steps?
What has to happen next, let's look at a couple scenarios. One, if we find this money somewhere, right? That's where I'll find it.
Just grab one of the trees
Our
down.
large
Shake that tree up.
Grab the tree in DC, we'll bring it up here.
But next, what needs to happen, so let's say it becomes a township project, right? We realize going and adding in possible grant money, state money, tip money, is going to expand as
Tip,
tip.
okay, not tip or tip,
The tip, not tip. I'm saying if we don't go that way
okay.
and it's funded here, what has to happen to prepare us to be able to take the next steps? What are you proposing, sort of board to consider, what do we need to do next?
Well, this would, if it was a local project with local funds and matching and, no state monies from grants or anything like that, this would be just your normal standard roadway, highway occupancy type project. It would be a design that would go through PennDOT, get approved, they'd give you a permit and try to go build it.
So to get to that point, you had mentioned something about an alternative analysis. Is that another step that has to go in before you get to that point? Or?
Well, and again, I'm trying to be frugal with your money, not to spend a lot up front, because I know when we originally talked, you're looking for a whole kit and caboodle on this. I said, let's do this incrementally. Let's kind of do this first cut. Let's look at the alternatives, come back and have this presentation, talk to see where you want to go. Once you select something, then, I think the next step would be to take this design and kind of fine tune it. I would like to get Kittleson involved with us again, because they are the roundabout gurus in the state. I mean, we're working with them up in Luzerne County on some warehouse projects up there, and I mean, those guys, they live and sleep and breathe this stuff here, and it just, I would feel comfortable if we're gonna pursue that, to really tighten this up, kind of really get more of an idea on right-of-way impacts, because that's a big thing, is the right-of-way impacts, I think. Looking at access to these driveways and just kind of tighten it up a little bit more. So I think that'd be the next step, to have a level of drawing similar to if you go back to the 4-way intersection. I mean, our guys, we did that, and we can eat and sleep. That plan there is something that, you can start, that's laid out on survey, something that can start going to an HOP plan. So that would be like the level I would like to get the roundabout to that next step. Our guys do this in the sleep, like those guys do roundabouts in their sleep, so that's why we kind of put a little more into that one, because our guys do that versus the roundabout. I didn't know what the reaction would be to the roundabout, to be honest with you. I've gone some places and they're waiting outside for me when I leave, So, I never know how things are gonna go with them, but it seems like now people are coming a little more accepting of them, because I think they're starting to see them around and they're driving through them, and it's not scaring them as much, or some people have fear of them, and you always have it, but again, until it's become more familiar. And again, I think from your end of it, like you said, the maintenance point, I mean, that's a big item. I'm not sure what your insurance and things are, but if you've got 20 years, what's your cost over 20 years on something like this? If you start with the benefit cost, then roundabout always will come in as a better option. It may cost you more upfront to build this thing, because of the amount of concrete and some drainage, and you're gonna have more lighting around there, and you're gonna have sidewalks, and it's a nice feature, but you get a lot of life out of something like that.
It'll look good.
That's a question, Mike.
Yeah, I guess, for the board's sake, if we want to consider that, would you be able to get us a number as to what that would cost, and if you guys consider making that next step?
Sure, yeah. And, the other thing too, with the 4-way intersection, you look, head back towards Reeves, now there's a culvert there. So again, even, keep pan up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you can see what the limits of this project as a 4-way intersection are. They transition to get traffic to move over, to go to the south, to create the turn lanes and the transitions, and it pretty much stops in the area of that culvert there. So, I'm not saying we cheated on those storage lanes, they could probably be a little bit longer, I think, from what we designed, but again, if you want to take it further to expand that culvert, you know, it starts adding more to the project. So again, I think this is a good right-sized design for the four-way intersection. And then if you go the other way where the church is, Mike, you know, you got the driveway to the church and the Redners, so again, trying to maintain those. But if you look at that driveway coming out of Redners, if you want to go left, you know, you've got cars stacked in the left turn lane, the through lane, and, you know, people come through that right because there's going to be an overlap right turn that they can go on the arrows when the north and south are turning. So that's a very risky move, and, you know, from a safety point of view, that's the reason why I selected the roundabout. I think it provides, again, slows traffic down, it's less pavement to cross, it's a much safer, cleaner operation than this one. But again, you have to look at both, but, you know, and price-wise, they're both basically the same. You can see the extent of blacktop you need here, drainage and everything versus what you need. The difference is really the concrete, and what you're dealing with, the lighting and the roundabout signage. I mean, you're trading one for the other on it.
Okay, so it'll provide a proposal to the board to fine tune that roundabout.
That's good. And what of this report itself, there's some things I want to add to it, then just to make it final, just as the first level kind of. This is typically what we do for like a preliminary engineering type study. This, again, the alternatives analysis, and then to take it to the next level.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, traffic impact fee agreement, Mike.
Yep, it's probably a nice follow-up to this discussion as to how maybe
Can
we
you get
can.
a, are we on that, or I'm
No,
on that? I've
you're good.
read it 500 times.
Yeah, you've been involved with it from all ends, but as we, I guess over the course of the last 6-7 months, we had looked at internally with the consultants, with the solicitor, with staff, and talked with the Transportation Impact Fee Committee about our current arrangement and how we work with developers and applicants to defer payments to the tip monies that they need to pay. And we have been doing it informally in the past, and we have been doing it sort of in a different way. Some have been given essentially a 2-year, the majority have given a 2-year period to pay it. Some have done it by paying at the end of the 2 years, some have done it monthly, some have done it quarterly. But we've never had an agreement in place, and we never really formalized that outside of action by the board. So the discussion was to try and develop an agreement that could possibly be used to make sure that we were protected in what we were doing. The applicant also knew what the requirements were, it would get recorded, and then we'd be able to move forward and see if maybe that would be an incentive to get done some of the things we needed to get done. So we looked at developing a draft agreement. Primarily, we're only focusing on the LERTA eligible projects, so non-residential projects only. Residential houses, they would still be handled the same way. And we wanted to look at developing some type of agreement that would provide the township with flexibility in how we could use those funds and those fees that are gathered for transportation projects. You know, one, whether we can use them in any district for any roadway project, eliminate the time frame for the use of the fees, and then have the applicant in exchange for either deferring or even in this case, looking at paying less, that they would give up their right to request a refund for it. So we had a draft agreement drawn up, had a discussion at the last Transportation Impact Fee Advisory Committee meeting, and talked about as well maybe expanding our current agreement into maybe 2 different types of agreements. One being a deferred payment option, which is what we've been doing now, and the second one would be essentially considered offering a lump sum payment at a percentage discount. So the solicitor has drafted 2 different agreements. One is the waiver and one is the lump sum agreement, which the board has. I'll kind of go through them real quickly, and then my goal is to discuss with you guys to see how you feel, where we are with this. We can maybe get input and then determine what our next steps will be regarding that. The deferred payment option would again give developers the opportunity to pay the tip fees over time. We would standardize that 2-year period, make sure that everybody knew what those rules would be if we did it, if it was going to be paid quarterly, monthly, whatever the case that the board felt was most comfortable. So we'd have to spell that out. You do have a copy of the agreement there in your packet. In doing so, if the township did come to an agreement with the consultant or with the applicant and they signed off, they would waive all the township's obligations to use the fees for a project within a certain transportation service area. They would agree not to seek a refund of fees, regardless of whether the township used the fees within the time limits or for a project on the capital improvement program. And then the township would have the discretion to use these fees for any road improvement project in the township that you felt was ideal and would address traffic and safety in the township. If they fail to pay that, the township, so say the applicant signs off on this agreement, doesn't pay, the township can file a municipal lien against the property. The agreement is binding on all current and future owners, and the agreement ultimately gets approved as we have in the past at a public meeting, gets recorded at the county. The benefit of doing a deferral type agreement is that we collect the full amount of the TIF fees, and obviously we get this flexibility officially designated in with that applicant. The disadvantages are if something happens to the developer, they go bankrupt, we may never be able to collect those monies. Even if we lien the property, it may take a long time before we receive those. The second option is what we call a fee reduction agreement. This agreement is based primarily on the Manheim Township agreement. We've talked about that in the past. That states that the township is willing to accept a percentage of the impact fees and in lieu of the applicant signing that agreement. And we would need to determine what that is. I believe Manheim Township right now is at 80%. I think some of the discussion we talked about was maybe 90%. We were needing to go to the 80%. The entire fee is due and payable prior to the issuance of a construction permit. So we accept, again, that if the township were to approve and offer this type of agreement, the developer would have the option then to accept that, pay that percentage in consideration for the township signing the agreement. We would get the ability, again, to use that through our flexible means as we saw fit. We would not, the developer would also not be able to seek a refund of fees regardless of whether we spend it. Similar to the deferral one, we can use it for any type of project. The agreement's binding on all current future owners. That becomes less important because it's paid all up front. And again, it gets approved at a public meeting. So the benefit there is it reduces the fee or the impact to the township and the risk in something happening and the developer going away, going bankrupt, the project not working. So really, I wanted to get sort of this format in front of you so you could see both types of agreements. They're worded relatively pretty much similarly, except with the whether you're going to choose to defer it for a period of time, and if so, how long would you want, as well as how would you like those payments made. And if you want to also include an option of the fee reduction, what that percentage reduction could be included in if you want to do any of those. If we don't do anything right now, we would still be essentially probably get approached by different developers to see about doing that. You'd be doing it by motion, but we wouldn't have the flexibility. So we'd be offering something, an incentive to the developer, but the township then wouldn't be able to take advantage of that the way we would best want to be able to take advantage of it. So with that thrown out, really just look for some direction from you guys as to which way you want to go, and then we can try to finalize it.
Yeah, I think overall this helps tie up some loose ends. There was nothing in place that the developer started paying on payments. All of a sudden the property changes hands. We could just be out of luck on the remainder of the fee. So this helps to tighten that up, I think, and makes sense that way. What was there was reductions given already in some of these fees for certain projects, wasn't there? If it's all on pay early, or wasn't that ever done?
I don't think they did it.
No.
I don't remember, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, when we looked at that spreadsheet, I didn't see any that was reduced.
Okay.
I saw deferred payments, I don't remember.
No reductions then.
Right.
Okay, so this is a novel idea in that respect.
Yeah, the only, excuse me, but we were just talking, the only thing we remember is we were allowed to use it anywhere, or a couple of those bigger ones. That was an agreement up front, but it was just, each agreement was treated separately, so.
So, okay, Okay, that was the advantage, then that freed it up anywhere in the township rather than a reduction. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's a good idea. We just have to figure out the percentage for a discount for a one-time payment, I guess, and my only concern, I had brought it up to Mike when I saw it, was, let's say a developer comes into town and their traffic impact fee's like 900,000. And they try to, start extending to 2 years, we say you have to pay it over 2 years. Do we work with them? Is it gotta be paid in 2 years, or?
It's contractual at that point.
Yeah.
They have to pay it, it's contractual.
So my only concern is maybe we scare them away that way. I don't know, it's like $40,000, $50,000 depending on, we got some big pieces of property that are gonna get developed and they're gonna have to pay the TIF. But again, I'd rather have the money now than wait 5, 10 years, whatever it is, But, but if we stay at 2, there could be the opportunity they start asking all these questions. But that's the risk they take, I guess.
The Manheim number was 80% for the reduction.
Right.
See, that what we have to balance and think about is it's the cost benefit analysis for a developer and the return on the investment of keeping that money over 2 years and then paying it versus what's the discount that they get.
80%'s aggressive. That's
But you have to make it aggressive if you want to get that
Correct.
money up front.
correct.
Because you could have someone come in and say, I don't want to make payments, I'll make a payment 2 years from now. So now you gotta do the cost benefit analysis of that money being used, worked, invested. Is it equivalent to a 20% return or more?
And at 80%, that 20%, I think most developers are gonna fight. You're gonna get your money.
The other thing we really need to think about when I read through these contracts is exactly what Mike highlighted. There is a risk. If you do a deferred payment option, there is a risk where it's unfortunate, but where they can get out of the contract is if they do go bankrupt. And then you never collect the money. So now you've got to think about, what I'm trying to say is the Manheim number at 80% to me makes sense. Personally, it makes sense because we're trying to minimize our risk, collecting that money up front. And it should be enough of an enticement to have the developer pay that up front.
I think the 80% number is what we should lean towards over the 90. That's my opinion as well. It's aggressive.
What was the TIF committee's today?
I believe when it was discussed, that was the discussion was the concern about the risk that we took by not collecting that upfront.
Okay, so that was the primary concern.
Right, because all the things that could happen that we would get that money as opposed to getting it upfront. I don't know whether, and I'll look to Susie, you were there, whether there was ever a percentage set. I know we threw out, I think there was some concern that, 80, we wouldn't want any like heads of pop, so maybe do we look at 90? But that was the range we were working off of. But I think the discussion was just the longer you push it, the more things that could happen, the more of a chance that we may not see that money.
See, and doing the 80%, there are very few municipalities that have the TIF in place. We are falling in line, it's a reasonableness that we're falling in line with the other municipalities at the 80%. What the other municipalities are applying.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, obviously, they probably had the same discussion, and their conclusion was come up with 80%.
Yeah.
So, Just not privy to the details there.
No, but like I said,
That's the
it's,
conclusion.
yeah, it's the balance of the risk we take as a municipality that a project does go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Or we collect those fees up front. And we add enough enticement there that the fees are paid up front. Because a 20% discount is a significant discount.
When you put it out, the work probably.
Over 2 years, it's still less than 1% a month, but any other return on the money, that's still, from a developer standpoint, that's probably worth taking the risk.
Absolutely.
It's good, I feel, that we get this agreement in place as well. Glad they actually brought it up that way. We get the ball rolling and get it executed as well.
Let me ask the public, any questions or any comments on this one? Yes, sir.
Doug Macklin, just a question, the deferral, are you gonna, I don't wanna make this any harder on what it's gonna be, but is there gonna be a bottom line limit? In other words, are you gonna defer somebody that has a $10,000 tip? Because it's gonna become a bookkeeping nightmare. Well, I mean, if you do it monthly.
Yeah, I think we have one that's monthly now.
Right.
That isn't the most advantageous way of doing it. So I guess my approach tonight was, if the board is interested in one or the other or both, then I would propose that we would at least do quarterly. We wouldn't go monthly, because that's going to be, I would try to get away from letting them pay it all at the end, because that is,
We already had that conversation.
right.
Yeah.
And if you decide, hey, we don't want to even, we did the deferral before, sort of without an official agreement, we see that it's more advantageous to maybe the developer as well as the township if we do the discounted rate, and that's the only one we go with, and that discussion sort of goes away, because then we don't have to worry about that. But really, you gotta determine, are you interested in having both, and if so, we should determine what those parameters look like in doing so. But I agree, monthly is a nightmare.
So do we set a number, anything below this? You know,
All needs paid.
anything below 10 grand and needs paid up front? Or?
Yeah, because Doug, you're bringing up a good point. What you're saying is there a base?
Yeah.
A base limit where these are offered above that amount?
Well, and it just makes it easier when the guy comes in, you don't have to sit here and scratch your head and look at each other and say, what are we gonna do? You've got something in place, and here it is. It's pretty simple. It's like going to the bank, they say, here's your rate.
Right.
They don't, you know.
I think what I'd like to see, personally, what I'd like to see for the next meeting, based on that comment, which is a very valid comment, is if Tiff could tell us the projects that were there, what the amounts were that came in, and if they have any visibility on what the amounts are going to be on the next, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 projects. Because that will help me
Pick a number.
in terms of giving me some guidance. Is the number 100,000, is the number 5,000? Because otherwise, I'm just guessing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give me some parameters to work with.
Get our average. That's how we get our average.
Yeah, and you figure it won't impact any development, we won't do it for residential, so if they come in, that's not gonna change, so you're gonna be looking at some of the proposed commercial and industrial projects that are being put out there, and then there'll be a little bit of a guessing game as to what the potential deductions would be based off of what was there already.
Right, but we can at least run a small model.
Mhm. Okay.
To give us some guidance.
Some hard numbers.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but how are you gonna, you know, to get numbers on a tip, you're gonna have to have from the developer what's going in there. Some of these people won't even tell you what they're gonna put in, especially a warehouse, so you don't know the traffic volume. So you can hold the meetings, but until you get those numbers, or he tells you, hey, I'm gonna put a 5,000 truck bay thing in here, you're just, you might as well not even have a meeting, because you're not gonna get anything.
Well, then we'd have to go with historical numbers.
Yeah.
Just go with the historicals.
Yeah,
In the future.
we'd probably be able to take some of the ones where they maybe have gotten to the point where they've gone through a scoping meeting with PennDOT and try and back into those. Because there's then some trips that are identified or proposed, and I know John can, or has done, hey, here's about what you're looking at here, you know, if it's this project. Sometimes we go through that based off of the size, someone wants to come in and open a certain size building on a lot, and we ask the type of use, and we'll kind of back into, hey, you're gonna be in this range with this TIF, depending on, that may be where we're at. We're not gonna be, it's gonna modify a little, but it may give us at least, put us in the ballpark.
Well, and, you know, what I'm gonna talk about happened well before TIF was created, but when, Acme Market, as it turned out, came in here, it was known as Building 264. They wouldn't tell you what was coming in here because it was a union deal, and the contract with the union said if they move more than 60 miles away from where they're located right now, and they happen to be located down at Vet Stadium in Philadelphia, that's 62 miles. Guess what? The union went away. So the realtor would have lost his commission if he would have told us what's going in there. And we tried every which way for months to try and figure out what this is gonna be. Even to the point of asking where they're gonna put their hairspray. I mean, we just threw stuff against the wall to see what would stick. So, you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know, and you could say, well, it's gonna be a truck garage, but look at the trucks that are coming in and out of that place. They put 2 extra toll booths on the turnpike just to handle it. So, you know, it's a crapshoot, plain English.
Yeah, understood. We just,
I'm
We
just
just-
trying to help. I'm
yeah.
not being a,
no, understood, Doug, and that's why I'm just saying, I'd like to look at the historicals on what these TIFs were, and if possible, what's there, so we can at least have a general idea before we start picking the number. Because your comment's a good one, is, will that apply to all projects,
Right.
regardless of what the TIF value is? And maybe we do set a minimum TIF value to apply the discount.
And is the board, are you guys at this point, are we looking just at the discount one? Are we still considering both? Or, I mean, the focus, just want to make sure that the focus moving forward is in the direction that we want.
Why wouldn't we have both?
Yeah,
Why not?
here's how I feel about it. I think to continue to promote the development and the growth, so that our homeowners aren't burdened with the taxes in the future, I think we give the flexibility to developers to pick. We have a TIF program, give them the flexibility. I personally think give them the flexibility to say, I'd like an 80%, I'll take the discount, or let me, I like the payment option, let me do the payment plan. Let them make the decision. They're doing their numbers, they're doing their return on invest, they're doing their ROI calculations, they know what they're looking at. That's how I feel.
And the payment option, you would, or the deferred option, I'm sorry, right now, I know the percentage one, we're gonna have to look at some additional information and try and make, you know, so you guys can extrapolate that out. But if we go to the deferred, we're, obviously the 2-year period is capped, we know that. But quarterly as a minimum.
I think quarterly is the right way to go.
Yeah, we don't need to create more.
That just helps kind of wrap, sort of like that. Okay.
No charge interest on
I would.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Can I jump ahead of everybody else and go, I'm helping cover the street?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can we go to my part of?
Yes, sir, yep, you can do that.
I only have 2 things, so it should be really quick.
Go ahead, Chief.
As I mentioned before at the leaders meeting, unfortunately, one of the crossing guards, Don Fenninger, that was down at the high school and the elementary school in Denver for quite a long time. Unfortunately passed away. The other crossing guards stepped up, covered those areas as needed. And previous to all this, months ago, I had received a call from an individual who's a fire police officer in Denver who was speaking to Mr. Shirk, one of the crossing guards, and they both, or Mr. Shirk determined that it would be nice to have an alternative in case somebody's sick or otherwise. But so what we did was offered the position to a Sean Krills. He lives in Denver. He's, like I said, a fire police officer. So I think you have a motion in reference to putting him on as it would be considered part-time crossing guard because of the hours for the pay period, but to cover the high school in the mornings and in the afternoons. He also lets the buses out in the afternoons and then the students, or the people in the student lot. And then he moves up to Denver Elementary both in the morning and the afternoon. So if we could do that, that would be beneficial.
Yeah. What's the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion to hire Sean Krills as a part-time crossing guard for the East Cocalico Police Department.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none, motion carries.
The other thing I have, when I don't get out as much as I would like to, it's unfortunate, but having been out on the street in one of the patrol cars last week or the last couple of weeks, I noticed that the in-car computers are becoming aged, if you will, and I determined that we would need 5 new computers to bring them up to where they need to be. It's kind of saying something about the officers that aren't really complaining about the equipment. They're in the car. I was using one of them and could tell that, it's time for an update. So I started researching that. We have a GTAC model, tough book style. They're not called tough books, but they're ruggedized. We have the GTAC V110 computers that have been tremendous for us. We have had no issues whatsoever with any of our computers in the cars. As I was researching it, I got an email the other day from GTAC. They have a different style computer, which it locks into a keyboard, so it looks like a laptop, but you could just pop the top out and use it as a tablet. I'm not saying we would do that as often as you would think, but the cost of the new V110 was approximately $3,400. The cost of, I think it's referred to as a K120, is about $2,300. I spoke to the GTAC representative who indicated they have them in stock and they are actually trying to move them because as computers go, they want to continue to bring in the new product. The lead time for the V110s would be 4 to 6 weeks on a good day. The K120s they have in stock, like I said. So I'm working with our representative through Island Tech to get an actual quote, but I kind of wanted to make you aware of it and maybe, I guess suggest would be the word, that we could possibly use some of the ARP funding for these computers for in the cars. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last time I come and ask for the use of ARPA funding, right, Mike? But I think it would be, in my mind, appropriate, but something to move on while I still have them in stock at basically $1,000 less. And I confirmed everything from the memory to all that, and they would work perfect for what we are using them in the cars.
So here's a question I have, Chief. The ARPA funding is there. You're talking about 5 computers. What's the end of life on the other ones, more or less?
Oh, well, they need to be replaced.
Probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that's kind of how it is.
So with the ARPA funding there, if we can use the ARPA funding, why wouldn't we look at replacing all of them?
Well, what we're doing is we don't need to replace the ones that are actual tablets in the cars, because now that we're in the process of getting new cars,
what we're going to do is mount them differently in the cars because Ford only sells SUVs now. So we're going to have a whole completely new interior to the car, a new dock, a new keyboard setup, a new printer setup. It's all going to be in the console. And what we're going to do is hang the tablets on. They have a mount that goes right on the dashboard, and it gets it out of the way so the officers have more room. And all they do is flip up if the officer needs access to anything underneath there. So with the new cars we're getting, we're going to do that. We have 2 cars now with those tablets, so we don't need to replace everything because they're new enough that we can do what we want, or what I want to do is get every car eventually in the fleet the exact same on the interior. So a guy can, or an officer can jump from car to car and everything's in the same spot. And that's something that's not the case now. It's just, the different equipment and that kind of thing. But we can take those computers, and if we do decommission one of those cars, we can then take the tablet, put it on the dashboard like the others. So we'll be able to transition these new computers to the new cars as they come in. Not the ones we're currently talking about this year, but in future years. So it's kind of a win on both sides, and plus they're $1,000 cheaper, so.
So you'll get that formal quote for us.
I will. I don't want to lose out, and I know I'm not trying to pressure anybody on a decision, I don't mean it that way, but if they come in with a certain quote, is there not to exceed $2,300? If we go 25, it's $12,500. Can we make it higher than that? And then I can move on that if they give me that quote before the next meeting. I'm not sure what your wishes are. If you want to wait, that's fine by me also.
I don't know.
Technically, you have to wait.
We have to wait
Okay.
because we can't vote on that
That's
tonight. Yeah, because that wasn't an agenda. Yeah.
Which I'm sure if I say, we're moving in that direction, I don't think they're gonna be sold out in 2 weeks, so.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Budget on that.
No. That wasn't planned.
Any questions for the chief before you run off?
Chief, this is Don Larry. What are the price points?
I think it was $2,300 and change. I'm not exactly sure.
So for the K-120
Yes,
and the V-110,
yes.
what's the 110?
It was right around 34, if I remember correctly.
And is the 120 the tablet?
Yes, with the keyboard that you can dock it right into. It comes all in the package.
And the 110 is almost like a top book?
Yes. Yeah, they don't disconnect. And that's why I was also kind of leaning towards those, because if they do connect, they do have a tablet function. We could potentially use them in the newer cars as we go on.
Just for everyone's clarification, more and more people are IT people are going away from the IT books, the tough books, and spending less money on like IT platforms, whether PCs or tablets, or they're cheaper to replace and almost throw away. And like you said, it's interchangeable with other cruisers, and that's huge.
Okay. Thank you, chief.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Chief got me out of order here, so I gotta go back the other way. Reamstown Heights Development, stormwater pipeline.
Yeah, the township has awarded the contract to clean and televise the stormwater pipes to Utility Services Group at a cost of $13,964.75. In anticipation of that, the construction part of this contract, which is going to be funded through the CDBG grant that the township received last year, we had determined that there's sections of the existing stormwater system in this development which are going to be lined but are located outside of the right-of-way. So we had needed to obtain a temporary construction and then a easement and a permanent easement from 5 property owners to access these locations, to televise them, and then to line the pipes. So we had reported on that before. Ken and I had worked with the solicitor to draw up a temporary access and construction easement, permanent access easement agreement to be able to access those facilities, clean and televise the lines, line them, and then they would be maintained like we would the other parts of the line that right now are part of our system. So we did reach out to the 5 property owners. Ken's done a lot of this work. We've received 1 back. We realize now that we're gonna be probably knocking on doors next week because the timing is to try and get this all squared away so we can get this done in February. So we did receive 1, didn't want to hold off and waiting on doing 1 since we were meeting tonight, but there is a motion for the board to consider to authorize the chairman, the board of supervisors to execute the temporary access and construction easement and permanent access easement between East Cocalico Township and Donna Jean Slayback, 68 Oriole Drive, Stevens, PA, 17578. Just for reference, the 5 properties are one on 4 Oriole Drive, this one at 68 Oriole Drive, one at 10 Oriole Drive, one at 23 Blue Jay Drive, and one at 57 West Church Street, the back of that property. So really instead of waiting and holding off to get all of them, the goal is we're gonna try and get them all. As they come in, we're gonna try and get them when the meeting comes up, and if we're successful, we'll have them all for the next meeting, but if not, we're not gonna hold up, we're gonna get these signed and recorded so that we can move forward with this project.
Okay, gentlemen, wish the board.
I'll make that motion to authorize the chairman of the board of supervisors to execute the temporary access and construction easement between East Cocalico Township and Donna Jean Slayback at 68 Oriole Drive in Stevens, PA.
See, we have a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Mike, continuing with you.
Yeah, just,
Make sure it doesn't fall over.
I wait to see, so
You'll
the
be
discussion
sorting,
gets tight, I'll knock it off.
you'll be sorting paperwork for a moment.
Just the first item is the draft township employee manual. Was distributed to the board and modified a bit and has come back, and now I guess the time is want to kind of move this forward. I did ask if there was any other comments from the board to let me know by tomorrow. And then the goal or the plan would be to take that manual and distribute it to the township staff for review and comment. Have those come back, we'll do a final review, make sure the solicitor gets a chance to review it and then take official action. So just wanted to make sure you guys were on board with that schedule, and if there was anything I was missing or any issues. I don't need any action right now, that's the plan, so just wanted to make sure we caught that.
Yeah, and I apologize. I was gonna send you an email, let you know I did finally finish reviewing it over the weekend. I never did. So I don't have any changes there.
Okay, the other item is the follow-up from the regional elected officials meeting that was held last week concerning the participation in a regional trail feasibility study. We had, at that meeting, there was discussion about having each of the municipalities in the district identify people from that community to serve on this regional trail feasibility study. And the trail feasibility study essentially is looking to run and extend a connection to the Warwick Ephrata Trail through East Cocalico, through Denver, through West Cocalico, and then have Adamstown in some manner tie into that trail as well. The first step would be trying to look at how feasible that is and where those locations could possibly be. Did speak with DCNR, and there is grant money available to do that. And so the goal is to try and, before putting together the grant, make sure everybody's on board, which everybody did seem to be at the regional meeting. And then just to ask the board if they're, since we have a couple meetings coming up, Recreation Board and Planning Commission, if any of the supervisors wanted to sit on this feasibility, or if you wanted me to approach the Rec Board and the Planning Commission to have maybe a person from each sit on the board to add input and to provide expertise from our region here into that overall study. So the projected cost for the study, right now, we had received one estimate just to make sure we knew what that projected cost would look like, and this could vary, but it was about $60,000. The DCNR grant will pay 50% of it. So if we are fortunate enough to get this together and submit a grant, we could see half of it funded and the other part could be shared amongst all municipalities and even the school district if they want to get involved. So are you guys okay with me following up with the Rec Board and the Planning Commission, or did anyone really want to sit on that board and get involved from that
I
end?
think RC wanted to.
That's a motion.
More meetings next week. No, I think it makes sense if there's someone from Park and Rec and planning, for sure.
Okay.
And it sounded like that all the other municipalities are okay with that at the regional meeting.
Moving forward with the
It
feasibility.
sounded like.
Okay, good. Two quick last items, apologize. We, at the last pension meeting, we had discussed the monies that we have sitting in our general account, about $100,000. We have about $11,018.57 in the EMB account, and 89,000 and some change in the Univest account, which at one time was marked for police retirement. And we had discussed the possibility of looking into some options to be able to maybe to use that money more effectively, and possibly to even help fund the post-employment benefits program. We kind of had some discussion, we didn't really do much with it, but the thought is maybe to kind of keep this moving along. We don't necessarily need action from the board tonight, it wasn't on the agenda, but in the interim, the township can contact maybe Gerard just to see about maybe a proposal for you guys to review to create a trust account to be used for that. To give you some perspective, the $100,000 roughly earned about $203 last year sitting in where it is now. So if we could use that money to start making some more money, it might be a benefit for what we're going to do long term.
Well, we did the OPEB study, and the retirement benefits there, on the healthcare. I think we're at, what, 5 or 6 retirees receiving that now. And it's coming out to currently close to $1,000 a month per officer, retired officer. Since that's an obligation that we budgeted, I'm wondering whether we ought to be using that fund to help cover that. Just to free up some of this budgeted money for any other thing that we're looking at. At that rate, that money would, I don't know, that would last 2 years, covering the costs that are there. If we're at $6,000 a month for a year, you're at $72,000. That eats up most of that fund right there. But rather than just have it sitting there doing nothing, why not make use of it that way? It's one option that's out there, if you have any other ideas.
So you're saying instead of developing into that, essentially use that money to pay that line item that we have this year for it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an option.
Yeah, it would pretty much come close to, I guess, clearing out the like, so we need to, trying to see where we had
That doesn't include the other retirees from this year, though.
right. Yeah, because we're gonna add three.
We're gonna add
more.
more to it.
So we will use sort of most of that up. I think we budgeted $96,500 in health insurance for retirees in this year's budget.
There you go.
So, yeah, so that's also an alternative. I mean, at least it clears it up, and it, so you can look at, instead of having it sitting where it is now, do you use it now, or do you try to create an account and try to make some money off it?
Or you could use the budgeted money and regenerate it at the end of the year with that.
Yeah.
So we're doing it, even invested.
Even no matter what you do, we should take a look at finding out what the one option is and investing in that money. See what it looks like at the end of the year with that money invested. Because it is a budgeted item.
It's a budgeted item. General fund can cover it throughout the year.
You leave it in the budget, it covers it, and then you take that money, we invest that, see what our custodian does, the rate of return, and then we apply it for next year. Or we may even decide to apply a percentage of it for next year. Maybe not use the whole amount in 1 year.
All right, so we know where it is, and we know where it's there, so we can get the proposal, and then you can evaluate and see which direction you want to go. Yeah. All right. All right, the last item I was asked about looking into, right now we have a fire official position that Harvey Aki has been appointed as township fire official. And in that capacity, he is paid, I think, $1,000 for the year for the services that he provides. And I did gather you do have a job description for that. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but see it on there. But the discussion was obviously just having one person in that capacity. Is there, he may be out of town, maybe just not available. Is there some credence into looking at creating an assistant fire official position to essentially help serve the township in the event that Mr. Aki's not available this year or moving forward or something were to change down the road? So you have a summary essentially with the fire. For those of you who are not aware, this is created to reduce the burden to the zoning, planning, and other boards in the township relating to fire safety and prevention. They essentially look at issuing all burn permits, have ordinance enforcement powers, a lot of it managing a Knox box system, reviewing a lot of the big components as plans come in, particularly larger industrial plans. They'll review those to make sure that health and safety issues, particularly fire related, are covered, and the township has that into consideration. Also making sure we have essentially the water flows with the authority to be able to handle what's going to happen, what's going in, how we're growing here in the township. So if there is a willingness to consider an assistant fire official position, we could create that, and maybe we could contact the fire companies and ask them to provide a person for the board to consider. And then if something does happen, if Mr. Aki's out of town and we need something done, we have a backup to be able to do that. And also we begin the process of that succession planning for when he eventually retires and maybe doesn't want to pursue this anymore. We have someone who can sit in. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we need to have, a backup plan. We've seen in the past when somebody's not available, you need a service like that, and where do we go? I think, assistant there is the right idea to get something in the works for the future. I like your idea a little bit of, I wonder if we could throw that out to the three companies and see if we can get a unanimous suggestion back. Maybe that's a tall order, I don't know. But we can go down that road and see what we get back. My thoughts.
Yeah, I'm in line with that. I'm in line with that. Good idea.
All right.
Question about.
John Miller.
Yes,
With the, I agree with the second person, an alternate, backup. But you're gonna have credentials as far as what they're gonna need as far as schooling? Because every fireman out there has to go through schooling, and firefighter 1, firefighter 2, some of them are pre-planning fire flows already. I'm not sure if you have that in the credentials now, but it's something to look at.
Yeah, right now, the 8 items under knowledge for the position was knowledge of fire investigation procedures, emergency management planning and operations, hazardous materials and mitigation procedures, fire prevention, fire safety inspection practices, national incident management systems, methods, techniques, and equipment used in modern firefighting, pertinent information concerning local codes, laws, and regulations, including health and safety codes, building codes, fire prevention codes, principles of business letter writing and basic report preparation, occupational hazard standard safety practices, and basic computer skills. So it reads kind of like a job description, and
Thank you.
That's a certification.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a position that works in association with a zoning officer or building inspector, so, there's a lot of back and forth between that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Right, community development, we don't have anything for tonight?
No, nothing.
Okay. MS4, Ken.
Yeah, lately the thing I'm working on is the update of the township's stormwater management ordinance. Our MS4 permit requires us to have an ordinance that's consistent with a 2022 stormwater model ordinance that DEP put out. And there aren't huge differences, but I'm working on reconciling the two to create a draft, the first draft of getting all the changes into our ordinance that are required under the new one that the state's requiring us to have. And that all has to be completed and in place by September.
Any questions for stormwater?
Did you want to go through your,
You can if you want.
oh, I loaded it up. You guys mind to do this? Ken has some information, he was successful last year in writing a grant to get $200,000 through the CDBG monies through the Williamstown Heights development. So we just received notification that process is starting again, and I think he wanted to kind of go through a little bit of a discussion for that.
The block grant, full screen was the next one.
You want the next one?
Yeah. Eligibility for that grant is based on the average income levels within census blocks. The areas that the census is using to report people in. And the eligible areas for this grant have percentages of low to moderate income residents of at least 46%. On to the next one. Those two areas are the two in the township that meet those criteria. The road kind of at the middle is 272. Runs into a little bit of Reamstown and then over between 272 and Denver. That hasn't changed from what we did last time around. Go to the next one. The grant's for a maximum of $200,000. The township needs to provide a 20% match, upwards $40,000 on the full $200,000 funding. The funds have to be used in those qualifying census areas. And so we got $200,000 in the 2021 funding, and it's being used to do the slip lining of the stormwater pipes in the Reamstown Heights area. And possible uses for the grant include new sanitary sewer system projects, sanitary sewer extensions, public water distribution system projects, public water distribution system extension projects, construction of new sidewalks where none exist, construction of curbs and sidewalks. There are other things that can be fit into that general scheme. The work needs to be done in those areas I showed you in green in that map. And the reason for bringing this up at the meeting tonight was, aside from continuing on and doing some additional stormwater pipelining in the same areas, are there any projects that people can think of that might be useful and fit in with these criteria? Unfortunately, the sewer system and water system, essentially all of that area already has public sewer and water. So that eliminates that. So if we don't have other input on this or nothing else comes up, we'll probably ask for funding to do lining of additional stormwater pipes in the same development, because they're all around the same age. And they're all corrugated metal pipe, which has been in there for decades, and it eventually rusts out, so it does need to be done at some point. And if we can do it nearly for free, it makes sense to do it now rather than wait for them to fail and cause problems. Yes?
That, Doug Maxman, that development you're talking about, that has that old curve in it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go over there, there's a lot of them are like this. I mean, you could certainly apply, I think could apply towards that. Just an idea, I know it said new sidewalks and construction or curbs or sidewalks, but if you go that development, that's been around since the fifties, no? Sixties,
Yeah, some of the seventies, the earliest part of the development, the part, Keeler and Faust are actually from the forties.
Right, okay.
So that's, we can look into that, that's
Yeah, I mean,
a
just-
suggestion.
If you go there, I mean, the water is pooling up where they go like this, and we all know what that's gonna create in that geology after a while.
Right.
Those are spots that have pipes under them, and they're,
I don't know if they do or not, just don't.
We use it to replace the pipes, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And Steve Brubaker, and actually what Doug is talking about fits in nicely with the 2040 places, which is the regional planning for Lancaster County. They talked, at the last meeting, they talked about placemaking, remember that, Mike? And placemaking basically is making a community a place where you want to, instead of just drive through, they said basically a place where you want to stay. So one of the strategies they talked about was streetscaping. And a cheap way to do that was curbing and sidewalking with a little bit of landscaping with that. So that's something that sidewalking and curbing.
Yeah, I was thinking, my mind was spinning before, but when we were talking about, and this was before maybe John said, he threw in the comments, if you get grant money, it loads up a whole lot of stuff, you know, but I thought if we were gonna try and get multimodal monies to maybe look at the 272 and Church Street intersection, could we use some of these monies to extend that sidewalk and curb on Church and almost present it in a way that we're trying, the multimodal component is linking Williamstown and Denver communities and giving people an opportunity to not walk along the side of the road. But that also could add cost to the street project, which may be the more important component of it. So just another idea to throw out.
Well, and Mike, you raised an interesting point. I think most of us sitting in this room, when you think of sidewalks, you think of concrete. There's a lot of places that are laying down macadam.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper, a lot easier to do.
I think from Ken's end, he's got a successful grant format for that lining part. So that's an easy, it's like using your same plan, lesson plan from the year before if you're a teacher, and just throw it into the next year. But there are some bunch of good ideas as to possibilities for what we can get some money here for the township. So that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can figure out how to get out of this.
Right, treasurer's report.
okay. We have a list of bills tonight of $223,453.63. I will make note that on the list, number one at the top of the list of check number 61912. Now, this was the Fulton Bank credit card that we had approved spending upon validation from the last meeting. And that total is in the total of the general fund amount that I just announced. So if there's any other questions there on the bills as presented. Hearing none, I make a motion to approve as presented.
I will second that. Okay, a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carries.
Okay. And we have a total of electronic payments for payroll for the period of January 16th through January 29th of $120,794.99. So I will make a motion to approve that as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second, any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none, motion carries.
That's your report for tonight.
Thank you. Okay, old business.
So at the January 3rd meeting, I had brought up about prayer at the beginning of our Board of Supervisors meeting. That evening, we did have an executive session and asked a couple questions to our solicitor about it. Obviously, the plan I had of inviting, preachers from around different churches isn't gonna work unless we open it up to anybody and everyone. So I wanted to try to get approval for one of the 3 board members to open our meetings with a prayer after the Pledge of Allegiance, possibly.
Yeah, I guess just as a little background, the solicitor said if you open this up to outside people to come in, well, you open it up to everybody. And that might not be the place where we want to go. But he said if it stays within the board, he had no problem with that. It happens in other places that way. So, under that idea, I'm all right with moving forward with it. And in fact, I guess I'd like to participate. So.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can do a motion, and we'll add it to the agenda, and we'll add a.
We have to add it to the agenda.
No, I mean, no, it's on here now, so you could take action if you want to add that, and then I'm saying I will just add that to the agenda as an item, so.
We don't need to do a motion for something.
No, but if you wanted to document the day and time, the meeting when the township made this change, might be easy to find that way, doesn't matter. Or we can always look at the first meeting agenda that has prayer on it, and everything else.
Just do it,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll make it over, so.
It would be noted in the meeting minutes.
Right, yep, okay.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, then you're first up.
Fine with me.
All right, so you're done with that? Thank you. Yep, thank you. Okay, public comment for non-agenda items. Again, please just state your names clearly so it helps helps Lisa with the meeting minutes. Yes, sir, in the back.
Don Miller. Previous meetings, there was, the road crew was actually going for certifications for the chemicals for the swimming pool and fertilization. Did they pass that certification ever?
They took the, 2 of them did the training and took the test, I think it was the last week of January. Was it
Okay.
25th?
25th.
Yeah, was when they did, so they haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
But they did just,
Because the first time they failed, correct?
yeah, no one passed the first time.
It takes a while for those results to
I
come
know.
out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Steve Brubaker. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, January 20th, Supervisors Mitchell and Bernera decided that one's attendance record a criteria for reappointing volunteers to various boards in East Cocalico Township. And both Supervisors Mitchell and Bernera rejected the Planning Commission recommendation of reappointment of Miss Kathleen O'Connell to another term based upon her attendance record at Planning Commission meetings. My question to the Board of Supervisors is, when did the Board of Supervisors publicly discuss and vote to implement attendance records as a criteria for reappointing volunteers on a board in East Cocalico Township?
I'd say it's just for me, it's just personal preference. You know, and we talked about it last time, with Craig making suggestions to me. He put several suggestions out to the board, and that was one of his ideas. So, you know, I'm personally going forward with that idea. What the others want to do, well, I'm not going to speak for them.
So it was a personal decision?
Yeah.
It wasn't a board decision?
Well, that I can only answer for me. Like you said, the board didn't talk about it, so.
Sure.
I mean, we discussed this last time as well. For me, it was an attendance, and that's why I put it out. I think it was 4 of 11 meetings, 1 of 4 workshops. But as I told you after, we had 2 or 3 attempts to reach out to Miss Kathleen to do a phone interview like I did with Mr. Buckles already. And Mike has been in communication, but so far it's been unsuccessful, correct, as of this week?
Correct, we haven't been able to set that yet.
Actually, I'd like to correct you. At the last supervisors meeting, I had asked you publicly if you contacted Ms. O'Connell.
Correct.
And you had said no.
Correct.
But you had contacted Mr. Buckles.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
so it was after the meeting that you reached out to Ms. O'Connell?
correct. And just as you said yours, I'd like to, for clarification, I said I was doing it just for you because you asked me. Correct?
Yeah.
I did say that, correct?
After the meeting, yes.
Correct. So I came to you after the meeting and I told you.
Right.
If it makes you happier, I'll do that for
So
you.
it's
But
not, Mr. Supervisor Panera, it's not about me. It's about doing the right thing. You reached out to Mr. Buckles, but you did not reach out to Ms. O'Connell until I had said something.
So I don't know if it's about doing the right thing, because I have enough evidence that, my decision personally was enough to not even put her back on the planning commission. And again, it's not personal either, I did tell you that as well, and I said it in the meeting.
So 2 out of 3 supervisors, based upon personal opinions, made the decision to reject and thwart the planning commission's recommendation to reappoint Ms. O'Connell to another term.
So I think you heard.
Is that safe to assume?
So I think you heard 2 of the 3 supervisors' opinions. I mean, the motions were there.
Yeah.
They could have easily been made. Our chairman could have easily made the motion, and he didn't as well. So perhaps you want to add to the story, or you have a reasoning why you didn't make a motion either, or?
You have.
He did not make a motion.
I'm sorry, he has the floor, but I beg to differ. I'll argue with you when he's finished. So on the record, RC made a motion to appoint. No, okay, I apologize.
No, that was the last meeting, not the first.
And then I had the wrong person.
Correct.
If I remember correctly, the motion was Mr. Bernero wanted to hold off on that.
Correct. It's in the meeting minutes.
Because you wanted to
Interview.
talk to the candidates.
Correct.
Yeah. To move forward. So I guess my question to the board though is, we're in February now, and the planning commission, we had 6 members at the planning commission. How long is this going to drag out until we get a 7th person on there, a tiebreaker?
I mean, my question to you is, how many times have you guys needed a tiebreaker? Like, do you guys need someone absolutely like today?
No, we don't need somebody today, but that's why.
At this point, if I make a decision, I have not yet talked to Ms. O'Connell. So then you guys are gonna come back and come at me for that as well, correct?
No, that's not correct.
Well, I think it'll probably end up happening. So I would like to be fair with everyone across the board.
That's fine.
So we're waiting on that communication. That's my reply to you. That's the right thing to do.
We can't make a decision tonight anyway.
Correct.
It's not on the agenda.
Correct. But I can't jump to conclusions either without talking to the other person.
So if your personal opinions about attendance records, okay? If that just applies to Ms. O'Connell, and nobody else, is it fair to say that, and I've sat on boards before where people have had less attendance, volunteers have had less attendance than Miss O'Connell, which Mr. Bernero, you said 50% was her attendance.
It was less than 50%.
Do then we go forward as a board and call up all those volunteers and say, your attendance record is less than 50%, and will you step down?
So I had it with me, I don't know, Mike, do you still have that? The attendance?
No, Lisa prepared that.
So I went, like I said, the last meeting, and even January 3rd when I was asked, I think it was January 3rd, I had the attendance record for all committees, not just planning. And everyone that I went down, that's on the paper, were all above, I think like 70%.
And I would find that hard to believe because I sit on 2 boards and I know for a fact that there are members, probably including myself, that have attended less than 50%.
I'll get you a copy for it at the next meeting.
But moving forward, okay, with attendance records,
That is my wish.
that is your wish,
That is my wish, yes.
okay? That, Mr. Mitchell, that's your wish as well?
Well, I think the board nominated and appointed one person in that meeting on January 3rd unanimously. All 3 of us voted yes for that one appointment.
Right.
So, I wanted to correct you on that. But as far as moving forward, I guess we'll see. That's how I'll answer it.
Because I look at it as, if you're gonna make it the attendance record, that it should be discussed publicly and you guys should vote on that, because that's a criteria moving forward to sit on the boards. On the rec board, we've had to cancel our meetings because of lack of quorum numerous times.
I think you gotta look at the difference between planning and rec and zoning.
And what would that difference be?
You're working with developers on planning commission. We as a board have talked multiple times with the public about trying to give good service. We have that rap of challenging times to get developers and get development plans through. So attendance is relevant. One meeting last year was canceled because of lack of quorum with the planning commission.
Okay.
Is that right?
I would have to look back, I don't know.
It was.
Okay, I believe you. But you just prioritize now to everybody that planning and zoning have a higher level than the rec board.
As far as developers go, yeah, it does.
If I may jump in.
Sure, go ahead.
30 minutes and 7 seconds, you said, developers come and this board tries to expedite things in a timely fashion.
Correct.
Then why aren't you filling this board in a timely fashion?
About what? Telling what?
Filling the planning commission.
Oh, filling,
board.
I'm sorry.
You're taking your time.
Well, I'm looking at it as we're accommodating Mr. Benor.
I mean, they're more than glad to make a motion. Don't get me, let's not get confused here. That you guys are more than welcome to get it added to the meeting agenda for next and make a motion, but I have successfully not talked to Ms. O'Connell.
Well, if I can jump in here.
Yeah, maybe I get it.
Susie Macklin. Also, in the January 20th meeting, we had 2 other volunteers step up for the TIF committee. Did you, interview Mr. Hawes?
I mean, we spoke once or twice in here, but not, this was prior to me being supervisor. I recall speaking to Mr. Halls here, just communicating it a little bit, but not for the TIF committee.
Okay, but also you said in the meeting that you would like to interview anybody who's getting on a committee. That was kind of your wish. That's why you said you wanted to talk to Mr. Buckles, because you didn't know Mr. Buckles and you wanted to interview him and see where he was coming from. And I just thought that was the oddest thing I ever heard. You're a second meeting supervisor talking down to a 2-3 term planning commission who has very good credentials. And I saw that as really talking down to someone. And then we had 2 volunteers step up for the TIF committee. You nominated this man. The rest did. RC nominated June Kinback. Dead silence.
Correct. Going back to what Mr. Mitchell said,
Mitchell
said earlier, when Mr. Ebersol left, he left all of us a letter. Think of things he thinks would be of best interest for the township. And the one is not having people serve on multiple committees. And I totally agreed with that. We had many discussions on that. So no, to answer your question, no, I stayed in silence personally because I agree with that, and nothing against Miss Kimbeck. I've spoke to her plenty of times, when I was in the audience as well. So I have nothing against her at all. But there's, to be exact, 2020, 10,767 people in East Cocalico Township growing. I think we're, if we advertise, I think we will get new faces involved.
How many people step up?
I mean, they've seen the same faces over and over. I mean, I've lived here 17 years and I finally decided to step up. So maybe there will be new people that want to step up. We don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And maybe not.
Maybe not.
So the point is, you had 2 people who stepped up. Why did you say no to Ms. Kinback?
So I'll go back to the Smokestown Fire Company meeting when I was still not a supervisor. I offered at that meeting to become a member of the TIF committee, and you shut me down right away.
I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You said, you turned around and told me, we don't need anybody on the TIF committee.
I don't know what
Smokestown Fire Company last year. We were at Smokestown last year.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We voted in Reamstown, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, this was during a supervisors meeting at the Smokestown Fire Company.
I want to see that record.
Yeah.
I challenge you. I do.
I know what I heard, I know what I see. I'm not here to get into an argument, but I'm just saying things how it
An
is.
accusation, I'm gonna hold you to it.
It's fine.
Pull it up on YouTube.
You can't probably.
No, I'm telling you to. I'm not asking, I'm telling you to.
So if
You
I
made
turn
an
around in a
accusation.
meeting and I go like this and say, how's that gonna be on YouTube? It's not, so it's what he said, she said, right?
And I'm supposed to believe you over my wife.
I never said you're
Good
supposed to
luck.
believe me.
Good luck on
No,
that.
it's fine.
But,
It's totally fine.
but the point is, with the TIF committee, we have a total of 8 people. We very rarely, we only meet now 4 times a year. And we have missed quorum several times, but we had COVID. We have vacations. There's issues. We have been good up to the day of the meeting, and COVID hit twice. That it threw us out of quorum. So we can use all the extra people we can get.
Mike and I have talked about that kind of situation with the Zoom capabilities we have. People don't have to be in the building to participate. And you could even phone in and still be part of it. I think when it comes, if you're sick, you're sick, that's one thing. But if it's an exposure situation, we have a lot of technical capabilities here.
I'm thinking about what Mr. Bonero just said. I think I'm remembering something now, that you were running for supervisor, or were you already elected?
I was running.
You can't be a sitting supervisor and on the TIF committee. That's what I remember. And somebody told you that. I remember that. You cannot be a sitting supervisor.
Correct,
on the TIF
and I was
committee.
aware of that. That's why I had made the comment that obviously winning the election, if I would have won the election, I would have had to, remove myself from the TIF committee. It was just to try to get involved a little bit. That was what my intentions were at the time.
Well, I think the overall situation about that is that they never wanted a supervisor to be involved in the TIF committee, not even to visit. That's why we're there to talk and then to send to you whatever we think. They just don't even want the association. So that was.
Well, I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, something now did come back to me, and if I think long enough, I'm gonna remember, because someone sitting in that meeting said to you, you can't do that.
And if I recall, there was a lady sitting to your right that was newly put on the TIF committee that night. If I recall correctly. Correct?
Correct. Now I remember her sitting there.
And I appreciate the clarification now. It makes total sense. So there was a reason why, there was a reason for it.
Okay. Oh, no, wait, I'm not thinking. So, why? Do you know multiple committees? Ms. Gimbach is on multiple committees?
Well, as of now, I think she's only on the water authority, correct?
That has nothing to do with this side of the aisle. Water and sewer is separate entity. So, and you know, when you have these newbies, they don't have any kind of attendance record. I mean, and if you take an attendance record from the TIF committee, who we used to only meet once a year, and if you didn't show up, you had zero participation. So percentages, and I come from a business of a fair level playing field. And you're talking about transparency, but I'm gonna tell you, the other big thing is to be constant. The way you treat one, you treat them all. But you know, you did pick a man and you left the woman sit, and it's 2022. That's all I'm gonna say.
So there was another question, I think.
Mr. Brubaker.
Just one.
Okay, go ahead.
I lost track.
Doug Macklin, just two other things. Your 80%, that's gonna apply to everybody. You three guys also? So yes or no answer, it's not hard.
If they want to implement that, yeah, I mean, that was what I said. There wasn't a vote taken, so that's what I said.
Okay, well, why would you not include yourself? Are you guys above the law or what?
Absolutely not.
What about the guy who dismissed himself from the rec board? He should be thrown off because he hasn't made any meetings. Took a leave of absence, so you're gonna throw him off, right? Under this new, if you do this new scenario. McLean,
Eddie.
Step down.
No, he just said he took a leave of absence the last I heard.
Yeah, I wasn't on the board, that's what he did.
No, that was leave of absence.
That is leave of absence.
Yeah, he didn't step down, he leave of absence.
Yes.
So under the rules, that if this goes through, then he wouldn't be a member of that board anymore, wouldn't qualify. And one more question, Mr. Bernard, you made a comment that there's many people serve on multiple boards. I'd like to see that list. I'm looking around here and I'm trying to think who serves on multiple boards. No, there's not many people, I can tell you that.
Mr. Brubaker does.
That's
He's
one
sitting right
person.
in front of you.
That's one, Jeff. I said that's not many. For all the people that volunteer in this township, you're gonna take one person out of 30 as many?
I didn't say many, but, yeah.
No.
In a general sense, it's my idea. We've got a lot of people in this community. why not, if they have a point of view, they want to participate, let
Then why didn't you vote her in?
them.
Why didn't you vote her in, kid?
For the same reason I explained last week, she's already on a committee in the township. Let's give other people the ability to participate.
Well, I'll tell you what, the next person that steps up, you call them. I wanna hear about it.
Deal.
Yes, sir.
Steve Brubaker. So you keep talking about multiple boards, and probably after this discussion, I'll probably be kicked off of one of those boards, I'm
No, you
assuming.
won't, not in my mind.
Thank you, Jeff. My question is, you had mentioned Mr. Eversole giving you guys a letter about thinking about different ways. Why wasn't this discussed at the first meeting when you guys were doing the reorganization? You could have easily had said, look, the past supervisor handed out a letter to us, wants, would like to have more people involved in the community. So people that's sitting on multiple boards, that's frowned upon. You guys could have made a motion and voted on it. Now it looks like you're changing the goalposts. First it's attendance record. Now it's, you can't sit on multiple boards.
Those are my personal thoughts.
And since that was mentioned in a public meeting, it's now a public record, so we can ask for a copy of that letter.
Sure, I have no
I'd
problem
like
with
to
it.
see that.
I will step in and say something here as the chairman. You mentioned the board numerous times, Steve. Please don't say the board as if we're unanimously doing this. Okay. In reference to Mr. Eversole's letter, Doug, I consider Mr. Eversole's letter to me a personal document. It was addressed only to me. It was some parting wisdom, some parting thoughts on his behalf. And that's how I took it. I did not take his letter, and I will not sit here publicly and commit Mr. Eversole to comments if he's not present, and actions that I'm taking based on his comments. That is unfair, and I will not do that. I consider it unethical, actually. So, just for some clarification, Mr. Eversole's letter had nothing to do with any of my actions, number one. Nothing. Number two, I consider Mr. Eversole's letter, again, if Mr. Mitchell wants to give that to Mr. Mackley, that's fine. That was a personal document addressed specifically to me. Just for clarification. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Next Board of Supervisors meeting will be on Thursday, February 17th at 7 p.m. And it will be in person as well as on Zoom. And it will be here in our municipal building. Go ahead, you can say that out. You're requesting a motion for that? No, you're just requesting an executive session.
Correct. I'm requesting an executive session tonight, please.
Okay? Do you expect any
No.
expect no decisions or anything so we can close out the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
So happy with everything.